Welcome back to Hytale. That feels good to say. Put up a little poll to ask you guys what you wanted to see next, and it was actually pretty tight between Hytale Magic and Hytale Biomes and Structures, but Biomes and Structures won by like this much, by maybe like one singular vote. So that's what we're doing today. But I should give the disclaimer before we fully jump into the world of Orbus. There's information here all the way from 2018, when the game trailer came out, all the way up to like yesterday. So not all of this will probably be in the game, or if it is, it may look different. It may be in a bit of a different form. There's a long time period that this information covers. The other important thing to keep in mind is that they are releasing a new world generation. So they have a version 2 of world generation. We may get some of this stuff that you're about to see in early access anyways, but just know eventually all of the way that the world looks will change. Which, I don't know if you've seen the way the world currently looks, but if it's getting cooler than it already does, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. So let's get into the world of Orbus. So, this is concept art from what Hytale calls the Alterverses. We really know next to nothing about these except that Orbus is the starting world. It's not even fully confirmed any other world will be in the game. It certainly won't at early access. But there's definitely a lot of theories about them. It's all speculation, right? All we're going to focus on today is the world of Orbus, and those 4 continents, those 4 regions. So you can see the large continent that's on Orbus right there and how it's split into 4 distinct regions. Those regions are what are referred to in the game as zones. Zones get a little bit confusing sometimes for people who aren't familiar with the game, who haven't been following it. Each zone is comprised of unique biomes, structures, factions, flora, fauna, NPCs, and that's above ground and below ground. So they're comprised of related biomes and factions and so forth, right? So you get Zone 1, the Emerald Grove, that's very temperate, and then Zone 2 is a arid desert, and then Zone 3 is all snowy and boreal, and Zone 4 is this volcanic wasteland, right? So all the biomes fit into one of those 4 categories and are then grouped together in the world based on that. So you start the game, at least as of right now, when the game comes out, you'll be starting in Zone 1, in the Emerald Grove, and the goal is, at the start of the game, you will eventually progress through those 4 zones that are set up to be kind of consecutive. There are a lot of speculation on the other 2 zones as well. I will leave that for the other video that I did. It's already in there. We know that they're not going to be in the game as of the early access, but they might be brought back. We shall see. Anyways, these are the 4 zones of Orbus. Let's get into the biomes and the... I forgot that I put the fondant cake on it. This is a cake that I found. I forgot about this. Somebody made this. Somebody made this cake of the 4 zones. Throughout the world, there are a lot of different types of structures. We're going to throw up a few bits of concept art at the beginning of each of these zones. We've got this separated zone by zone to keep it all a little bit organized. There we go. We have these mage towers. And we can see one for a lot of different elements, right? If you don't know, if you haven't watched the other video, elemental magic is a really big part of this game and this world. So we've got these different towers. I think this is kind of what this might be. I don't know. There's a lot of different ruins. There's a lot of different towers. There's some things that you're going to see in here. Like that. Do you see that? That's a wizard tower for sure. That's a mage tower. You see these? Mage Tower Earth? I would bet you money that's what's going on in there. You see the pointed caps? That's a mage tower if ever I saw one. Which does get me into like a theory about the magic and how you can go to different specific structures in the game to get different types of elemental magic. That's a thing for next week's video, because we're going to be doing magic for sure. Another really interesting note is that this soundtrack over here, once we get past the first songs and then these bits that say short form, Those seem to be kind of introductory bits, right? So we've got stuff about morning dew, pillars of foundation, Gaia, and etc., right? When we get past those, we get into zone-specific songs. And so we have bits about the Quebecs and the Chorks in Zone 1, and so forth. So we're going to come back to this. Put a pin in that, remember it. We're going to come back to it in a little bit. Here's some beautiful concept art. I absolutely love this. The concept arts for Zone 1 are some of my favorite. It makes me want to live there right now. This is of the swamps. We have a little fenstalker back there. We have a Quebec home in the background as well. And we have a toppled statue of Gaia. If we move on, this is one of my all-time favorites. And also, when you're looking at this, notice not only the tower in the background, because if we flip back a little bit, through the window, do you see? But also, take a look at this stone that's right next to the one that has a sword in it. You see the little curls there? Remember that symbol. It's important. And if you don't recognize it, go back and watch the video from last week. First biome of Zone 1. This is not indicative of much of what Zone 1 looks like, but this is just my favorite from everything I've seen from it. This is a bioluminescent forest that glows at night. And there is something really particular about it. I want you to remember what these trees look like. Remember what these mushrooms look like. Take a screenshot of it in your head. Except you don't actually need to, because we're just gonna we're just gonna come back to it later. We're gonna throw up another screenshot. But remember this. It's important. I have a theory about it. Walk with me. We have all these different types of forests, the densely knit ones, the spread apart ones. We have the ones that are mixed across these plains. We have just plains on their own. We have these rolling hills. It is absolutely idyllic, absolutely beautiful. You can see a few structures in here too, right? We can see a little human ruin that's down here. We can see another ruin that's up here. We have another screenshot that looks almost exactly like this. We have, it looks like another ruin over here. We have a Chork camp that's over here. Like, there's a lot, and it's really cool seeing you don't really have to go that far to get to more generated structures in the game. Like, they're very regularly spliced between all of this, and not only that, but they all have these story elements. So when you get into the game and you start experiencing these stuff, you always, in each zone, get a kind of conflicting experience between these different factions, right? There's opposing factions in every single zone. So the Emerald Grove has the Quebecs and the Chorks, which we'll see more of very soon, but they are poised against one another. And then in addition to that, you get these ruins that are left over from humans that used to live there. And I've got another thing to bring up on this. I have another theory, but put a pin in that as well. Remember it. We're going to come back to it. We also have these beautiful redwood forests, which also, I don't know if you guys have seen the tree chopping video in the gameplay that was released, the 16-minute Breaking the Curse gameplay. But imagine you just chop across one layer of these trees and the entire thing, like, that's going to be so much wood so quickly. Anyways, redwood forests, they look absolutely beautiful. We can see that some Quebecs make their home in the redwood forests as well. The autumn forests, we can see a skeleton ruin in here as well. There's a bear over there to the side. The autumn forests appear to be a biome in the game that is just always autumnal. You can see the red and the orange trees. You can also see back here, this looks like a gigantic shelf fungus of some kind, which is really interesting. I think these are beautiful. This is my second favorite in the Emerald Grove next to the bioluminescent forest. I'm very, very excited to build something in here. It just looks idyllic. It's right up my alley. You can also see, this was pointed out to me recently, these little falling leaf particles that you get when you are in the air. This is footage from the creative building video that they posted. You can also see a little bit of a Quebec settlement down there as well. I assume eventually these particles will be fixed so that you only experience them when you're underneath the canopy, but it is a cool effect. I like that a lot. Here we have another Quebec settlement that is in a little bit of marshland. We'll get a little bit more into the Quebecs and how they live and what it looks like a little bit later. But in the marshes, we do have the fen stalkers. We seem to get this very heavy fog as well, which is another thing I haven't mentioned, is that these different zones seem to have independent weather effects as well. And so we get different types of fog, different weather. It's really, really cool. So here we have a swamp Quebec settlement, which looks absolutely beautiful. I had included this image of the moss horns in my Zone 1 compilation for the previous video, just introducing Zone 1 and everything in it. The more I've looked at this, the more I've decided I am definitely incorrect. We're going to get to this later as well. I know I've said that so many times, but I promise we're going to get to this later on in the video. We can see here more marshland and another Quebec settlement back in the background here, which looks so cool. There's something very atmospheric about this in the light rain, the drizzle, the fog. It's so cool. It's so cool. Here we also have another Quebec settlement in the background, a fen stalker. This looks like it might not be a swamp or a marsh, which another thing to remember. We will come back to that later in reference specifically to the fen stalker. And then we have another bit blurry image of a fen stalker and a spider crawling up the side of a tree, because that's just something that they do. And we can see yet another settlement in the background down here. Lastly, in terms of Zone 1 biomes, we have these beautiful chalk and marble cliffs, which I'm also very excited about. This looks like an amazing place to build. And there's something about this. I don't know if anyone here has ever played the Lord of the Rings Minecraft mod, but this looks a lot like it. It really reminds me of areas in the Shire that look very much like this, and that I love that mod so much. It's maybe my favorite large Minecraft mod, and so to see this all together is... I'm just so excited to get into it and start building stuff. Speaking of building, behind this player who's building, you can actually see, in addition to these, chalk or marble landscapes, it looks like there's little springs back here that are resting on the water side, which is also really cool. So not only do we have these normal biomes, it looks like we also get these little like micro biomes spread within them as well. Oh, Marble Cliffs was not lastly. One more, the mountains. Somehow I always forget that the mountains are in here. But yeah, Zone 1 mountains, which look absolutely majestic. There's also this picture too. I don't know how much of that is like normal world generation or if that was edited. But it looks beautiful. Oh, you can see the little Gaia symbol on the shield there as well. This is the screenshot that is pulled from the very top of this blog post. If I scroll all the way up, the most recent blog post about system requirements, you can see it right there. It's a little blurry. I blew it up just a little bit larger here, but you can see quite a lot going on in the background here. You can see a ruined house. There's more ruins here and here. This looks like part of a Trork camp right here. You can see another one of those towers here. You can even see the little twisting tops of those bioluminescent blue trees in the background. It's quite a comprehensive shot, really. And once again, shows off the power that the view distance in the game can have. Here we can see another little bit of the tower right over there. We're going to see it clear in a second. There we go, right there. Another ruin here as well. You'll see this gateway also, and this round white building that we'll touch on in a moment, because not only is it a very distinct building, it has a different building style. And I've got a theory. This big structure right here is likely a dungeon entrance. I did mention this in the last video as well, but since we're going over structures, it bears mentioning again. This is likely the entrance to a dungeon that will have a portal somewhere when you cross through it. Here we get a clear image of one of those towers. The interesting thing here is that there are skeletons, so dead humans that used to worship Gaia in Zone 1. However, I've never seen an image of these sorts of towers with any skeletons in them. I don't know if they are in there and we just haven't seen it, or if the game hasn't been coded to spawn them in there, but I've not seen it. There's also a little bit of a trort camp right here off to the side. Here we can see another one of those towers right in the background there. They seem pretty frequent through Zone 1. And then we get properly into the trort camps. We see most of the images that we have of them so far in plains, in a plains biome. But they can definitely spawn other places as well. We can see them here, we can see them here. Definitely have a very, like, primeval feel about them. We have the bits of, it looks like bone that they've built up here, and they have bits of hide and plants and rock and wood that they've made everything out of. These big viewing platforms that they have as well. Yeah, it's quite the aesthetic they've got going on here. We can see a little viewing platform right here. And then we can see a little bit of ruins back here as well. The human ruins do seem to spread all across Zone 1 as well. We can see them very frequently. This is also from the recent blog post. We can see it if we just scroll down here, and it shows all the different versions of their view distance. And in this, we can see what definitely looks like a wizard tower, and we can see another one of those ruins back there. It's got the same window structure as the one up here, where all of these skeletons will spawn in Zone 1. We can see another one here. We can see another one here that's even bigger and has a wattle and daub structure at the top of it. Looks like it must have been a larger fortification at some point in time. So this is what I mean about getting to experience some of the story as you progress through the zones, because as you encounter these things, you will learn, you know, there used to be the civilization here and it's fallen into ruin. It used to worship this deity. Now that deity seems to be absent, right? These ones at the front, I don't think are prefabs. I think those are player builds, but you can definitely still see the ruin structure back here, and those beautiful mountains behind it. Here's some footage from the 16-minute Breaking the Curse video. You can see a combat area with these skeletons in the ruins right here next to my face. You see that little symbol? If you've watched the previous video or you're familiar with the game, you would recognize this as the symbol of Gaia. It basically looks a little tree-ish. It always has these 5 points at the end to represent the 5 elements of Orbus. The humans used to worship Gaia. You'll see that flag more. It's going to be an important thing later on as well when we make a little distinction about what some of these structures are in other zones. We can see another tower here. This is the one that I was saying looks very similar to another one that we saw in an earlier screenshot, because we can see a tower like this. We can see a big ravine next to it. Really cool generation. And then in the creative video, I'm not going to show all these because there's so many, but there's a lot of ruin prefabs that you can just drop down. We also have this concept art of stone circles, which I also have a bit of a theory about in terms of the magic system in the game. We're going to get to that in next week's video. But this is also a thing that we're going to come back to multiple times today. It's very, very interesting. So you see the one at the bottom, the one that says Earth, the bottom right? We can definitely see one of these here. Again, I showed this in last week's video. When we get up close, we can even see that the patterns on there look like the Earth Elemental that we've seen a screenshot of in the previous video as well. Really cool structures here, and I missed some of them in the previous video that I did in other biomes, so I also have those included in this one as well. Then we have the Quebecs, which live in these tree houses. If you want to know more about the Quebecs, check out last week's video. Or so many other videos on the internet that go over the Quebecs. They're really, really cool. I'm very excited about them. They live in these tree villages. Sometimes it seems like they build a house into the base of the trunk, like this one here, and other times they've got these treetops, treehouse sort of homes. I'm gonna move my face around a little bit here. Let's just... that way you can see a little bit better what it might look like, the inside of their homes here. We can see some that are definitely inside of a tree over here, and then some that look like they go all the way underground, kind of like a hobbit hole, which I'm very excited about. I mean, because let's be real, these are Orbus's hobbits, and I'm so here for it. Let me move my face back. So, This is a video that Radoon's got, I think last week, and you can definitely see the inside of the Quebec's treehouse homes. You can even, next to this poor one that's about to get shot, you can see a statue of Gaia, it looks like over there, which is really cool. And for better or worse, this might be the most detailed look we've seen of their treehouse platforms before. We can see these ropes that are holding them up that move diagonally too. Minecraft, take notes. It looks awesome. I'm very excited to explore these. Now we're gonna stop watching them get shot. It's traumatic. We can see another Quebec village here in the creative gameplay. Now, in the background here, we see another one of these round, white, dome-like structures. This is likely a Gaian portal that leads to a Temple of Gaia, which is a sort of, I don't know if dungeon is the right word, but it is a plot point that you can address and resolve that has to do with the state of Gaia and the corruption that the world is experiencing, and I believe the purpose of the Cursebreaker arc in the world of Orbus. It's a whole thing. We got into it in the last video. If we go over here, so this is the Zone 1 section, right? We have all these songs about the Quebec village. We have the Chork village. Wizard's Discipline. Hello? Like the Wizard Tower? We have Shadows of the Past, which also makes sense given the past civilization that's now in ruins and is just represented by skeletons. If we move further on, below Tides of Darkness, we have Knights of the Broken Order. Now, in last week's video, I showed a screenshot of concept art of two NPCs that are both knights. One looks corrupted and one is uncorrupted, and it looks like they either still, or in the corrupted case, used to worship Gaia. Knights of the Broken Order, right? So now they are sundered, some of them might still hold to it, some of them have been corrupted, and so the order is broken. Given the very different building style of these white buildings and that white dome compared to everything else. I mean, everything else, the human ruins, they are this tan stone. It's very distinct. The building style is very distinct. It's very consistent. And then this one is completely different. I think that these structures, these Gaian portals, were built by a specific order of humans. Maybe these Knights of Gaia, now a broken order, who built these as a way of connecting with her. There's a few theories about where these might lead. You can see those little hints of corruption in there too. We have these bits of memory mirrors, which we'll get into in another video as well, that might be hints at the past as well. And then we have the Temple of Gaia dungeon, and it looks like we have these 4 different pillars or big domes that represent the different elements, and we can see a very similar sort of structure here and here. We can see these different towers representing different elements in the world, the 5 different elements of Orbus. And it looks like these Knights of the Broken Order may have formed these structures specifically because of this link with Gaia and these 5 elements, right? Now they're being corrupted, and so when you are in the gameplay, when this is added, to be clear, because I don't think it's going to be there when the game is initially released, but when it's added, it looks like you will be able to address the corruption that shattered this Order of Gaia, these knights. I made up the term Order of Gaia, okay, to be clear, but I need to be able to call it something. Again, that's completely just a theory, but I do find it compelling. We also have these images of dungeon entrances, which we can clearly see right here. This is where I was saying, remember the look of that stone and the concept art and the little swirl, because we can see them here as well. This is clearly a bit of Zone 1, given the stylization of these stones. This is a very old screenshot. No telling if something like this will still be in the game, but it definitely looks like it's a reference to this. We can also see the same shape right here. These little symbols are still present in the rock right here. Keeping in the spirit of that concept art for a dungeon entrance. We also, I had to put this in again, we have the Klopp's hidey hole. We've not seen anything else of it at all. I just really hope that they're in a game. I really hope they're in there eventually. I'm not expecting them at the start with early access, but I really hope they're in there. There's something about this that is so charming to me. Like, look at him down here, under the ground, blowing his pipe that blows bubbles. Like, hello? I think it's fantastic. Again, don't know for sure that this is where they're going to be, but I think it's safe to say that that's where they're going to be. Then we have the underground structures and the structures that lead into them. This looks like it could be some sort of mine entrance. You can see the ground slope down here, and we have goblins here. The goblins definitely live underground. I was a little bit unsure about this when I did the first video, but the more I look into it, the more it seems like, yes, they're definitely in Zone 1 at least, if not other zones as well, but definitely Zone 1. You can also see this cave that a bear is sleeping in. I hope this is programmed behavior, at least eventually, that they actually have caves that they sleep in, because that's such good verisimilitude. We can see it looks like there's a passage that leads down there as well, and then we also have these caves that lead down just on the normal landscape. Underground, we get these cave systems where a lot of the goblins live. They have places down there. I don't know if they built them themselves or if they just inherited them from the humans who are gone. Maybe these are the humans' mine shafts, and now the goblins have just taken them over, right? We can see this that definitely looks like it's an Emerald Grove structure, but it also has these hints of corruption coming through, which does make me wonder if this is related to this, because we know that there was at one point a plan to have a Void Spider boss, which if you look down here, it looks like it's attacking a tree that used to be a Quebec. You see the ears there? Interesting. But it does make me wonder if maybe this is a hint at an area that could eventually contain that boss. I know this isn't currently in the game, but if it gets brought back, if that's a plan, this would make sense to me. And then obviously we have these goblin dens that we can see beneath here. And then we start moving into Zone 2. I know we spent a long time on Zone 1, but Zone 1 is the zone that we have the most amount of information about. Every progressive zone, we get less and less. But we still have a good bit for the next two. So going into Zone 2, this is the Howling Sands. So you can see this is the edge of the bioluminescent forest here, where we get this kind of bluish grass. And then this here is the Badlands in the Howling Sands. You can see another transition here. Here's bioluminescent forest. We get a Torque camp right there that's also built into the side of a mesa in the Badlands here, which is the first of the biomes that we're going to cover for Zone 2, the Howling Sands. Here's some stunning concept art of Scarrick structures in here. We can see another one right here, which this one is also particularly interesting to me in terms of the songs. If we go down past here, we have our Zone 1 information, then we have the goblins, which also makes sense for Zone 1, Forgotten Caves. Then we get into here, the Caravan, Scorching Sands, Enchanting Barrens. Here is our Zone 2 soundtrack. If we go down a little bit past this, past the Farron villages, the Scarrick hives, we get to Rise of a Hero, which does make me wonder if there's still some enslavement of the Farrons going on. If you didn't know this, the Farrons have been enslaved by the Scarricks. Some of them, at least, are free, but I don't think all of them are. You can see the player here gearing up to go in, this guy watching him very expectantly. I think that part of the journey through the game will eventually include saving the Farrons and becoming a hero, Rise of the Hero, which fits perfectly into Zone 2's story. It's cool that even when I'm covering the biomes and the structures, there's all of this lore involved because of the world's environmental storytelling, which is a really cool aspect of this game. Here we can see the Badlands laid out before us, absolutely beautiful vistas. Another one right here, which they say version 2 of World Generation is going to be even better. Look at this. This is incredible already. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for that blog post. And then we get this image also from the blog post today. We scroll up, we can see him right here showing off the view distance. And there's one very interesting thing here. Not only does this introduce a couple new biomes, both the desert and the oasis in here, and even this kind of ruined area that I'll get into a little bit later, you can also see this little purple patch down here. Now, granted, in the oases, there are these little patches of purple flowers, but this looks like the land is purple. Looks like corruption to me, which makes me think there's a lot of corrupted versions of these biomes, even if they're just subtly corrupted, just like little patches. So, the oases seem like these little pockets amidst the mesas and the badlands that have this beautiful little paradise. We can see the Farrens moving through it. We even get this little glimpse right here of what looks like a structure that's been made. It's hard to tell exactly what it is. Maybe it's just a little lean-to. This might be a Farren structure. I'm going to be honest, it's easy to find the human ruins in the Howling Sands, Scarrick structures. There hasn't been anything that I've seen where I've been like, yeah, this right here is definitely a Farren structure. There's been a couple where I'm like, it could be, but none where I'm like, yes, it has to be. So if I'm missing something, and any of you know something that is definitely a Farren structure, or that you think is definitely a Farren structure, let me know, because I would absolutely love to see it. We can also see the flamingos hang out in the oases, which is really cute. Then we get the savannas, completely different landscape. We get different colored earth, which is going to be very fun for building. Can't tell, I love my building in my block games. A different wood color as well, which is pretty awesome. And then we have these big stretches of desert, as well as these ruined areas. The ruined areas both seem to contain a higher concentration of these giant skeletons, these dead creatures, and a higher concentration of Scarrick hives, which we'll look at a little bit more later as well. But it seems like there's some sort of devastation that's happened to the Howling Sands, at least some regions of the Howling Sands, that may have contributed to the killing of these giant creatures and maybe the ruin of some of the humans in this area. Again, complete speculation, but there's just so much great environmental storytelling to get lost in, even without the game there to play. Here we can see a lot of this all laid out together. I'm actually going to move my face here. We're going to scooch me over a little bit. So you can see over here we have a savanna that has some human ruins in here. We can see that move into a desert over here. And then we can see it move past some more ruins and into this ruined looking area. Not only do we immediately see more skeletons, gigantic skeletons, but you can also see this Scarrick nest that's right in the middle that is built out of the same material as all of this. So it looks like maybe, I don't know. There's part of me that wonders if like the Scarricks are destructive enough that they killed these creatures the same way they enslaved Farrens. But they clearly had a big role on the landscape here, and you can see the landscape change every time you get close to one of their nests, which is wild. You can also see above my head there's this little bit of blue, which I don't know if that is a Zone 2 biome. The only thing I recognize in it is the blue grass of the bioluminescent forest in Zone 1, so I wonder if this is a connection point to Zone 1. We can't see far enough to know for sure, but it is interesting to me. Now, let's carry on. We get these human ruins. So just like in Zone 1, we have all those ruin structures that the skeletons lived in. We have the same thing here. You can even see on the front of it, it has that Gaian symbol. These people, just like the humans in Zone 1, used to worship Gaia. Now they're just skeletons. So whatever happened to them, again, my theory has to do with the corruption from the big baddie of Orbus. But they're all undead now. So here we can see the human ruins. I'm going to make a distinction here because it's important when we're looking at another structure later. We get these little cross beams along here, and we get these glazed bits here with the blue. Remember that. We can see those again here. Definitely the same building style. We have a tower back here. Wizard tower? Maybe. Maybe. And we can obviously see the undead all throughout it as well. We can also see more human ruins here. This big old baobab tree, I think that's what those are called. Palm trees as well. Out here in the desert, we can see more human structures here. Another one here with little cacti. We can see them here in the new screenshot that was posted, and these skeletons that we can see throughout Zone 2 as well. This is one of the loading screen options. We can see it from this combat gameplay here. Another human building falling into ruin. Same building style. We can see it here as well. We get the cross beams. We get the same sort of... I mean, you can see little hints of it here, right? These used to be complete buildings. Now they're falling into disrepair. This looks like a more complete section. It's probably just a portion that's complete while the rest is a little more deconstructed. This structure, we still see the cross beams here, but we do not see the glazed terracotta, and this sort of building style here looks very distinct, as well as these skull torches. You know the Farrens use skulls as part of their armor, so I wondered, is this part of a Farren settlement, or is this just like a player-made structure? I don't know. I truly don't know. The Farrens are a little bit of a mystery here. But we can see more human structures here. This is definitely in Zone 2, the Howling Sands. For sure, no question about it. You can see a little void eye floating behind it. And the generation of this. I mean, these are things that you see in real life sometimes. You go to like, you know, Southwest United States or something, Arizona, New Mexico. You can see these, you know, the wind carves the rock over time. It's so cool. I love that they put stuff that detailed into the landscape, into the biomes, in the world generation. And we can see another interior of a house here that looks probably like it also belongs in Zone 2. And then we can see this bird's eye view of these kind of ruined areas. I don't have another word for it. They don't look like a normal biome. They look like something has happened to them. And we have, in these biomes, in these kind of ruined areas, we have a lot of structures that have to do with the Scarix. However, we do see these big Scarix temples. I'll move my face a little bit here so people can see everything that's on here. These are Scarix temples. If you haven't watched the previous video, they are like big old bugs. The big hives that build these structures or maybe enslave other beings like the Farrens to build them for them. But we do definitely see temples like this that are, do I have a screenshot of them yet? I don't. It's going to pop up soon. We have temple, you know what? I'm going to go ahead of it. Yeah, there it is. We have screenshots of temples like this that are not in that ruined area. This is definitely a Scarix temple. I mean, look at the structure of it and then look at these. Like, that's what that is. However, the temples seem to be just anywhere, but the nests, these things, are in the ruined areas. These giant structures, we can see another one right here. They look to be made out of earthen material. So somehow or another, the Scarix are changing the landscape around them. I don't know what those blocks are going to be called. I'm sure as soon as we know what those are made of, that will be a big hint as to what those biomes actually are or what we would call them. It's very interesting, though. Here we can see the desert. We can see a little bit of a ruin in the foreground. We can also see in the background, there's definitely a Scarix building there. We can see another human ruin over here. And here we can see several pillars with blue lights inside of them. That is most definitely one of these. Stone circles, we've already seen the earth one, right? Now we're looking for one that has sandstone with blue light inside of it. That's those. Which is another thing I'm going to come back to in next week's video, because I'm sure that the magic system has something to do with those. Bro is locked in. Bro is locked in. Okay? You've no idea. I've waited 8 years for this game, and I haven't had anyone to talk to about it. And now I finally have people to talk to about it. You'll never get me to shut up again. All right. We also... Oh, yeah, we can see him back here, too. Same sort of thing, right? Sandstone structures with the blue lights inside of them. Your magic. Do you see the vision? Here we can see one of the weather events that happens in the Howling Sands. So not only do we have these unique biomes, unique structures, there's also sandstorms that happen in the Howling Sands. At the very least in the desert. Maybe they don't happen in other biomes. Probably not in like the Oasis or something like that, right? But they definitely happen here, and you can see this guy traversing through these human ruins in the midst of a sandstorm, which is... It's so cool. It's just so cool. Here we can see this enormous landscape that butts up to the ocean right here. Now, this is one of the only bits over here on this side of the screen where I'm like, maybe this is a Farron village. Do you see that tiny little... I wish I could zoom in, but Google Slides does not let me do that when I'm presenting. Do you see that? That looks like it could be a Farron village. I don't know. They're a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm very excited to learn more, but we don't actually know that much right now at all. But you can see that it's pushed up to the ocean here. When I saw this, this is when I realized we've never seen, to my knowledge, a screenshot or gameplay of Zone 1, the Emerald Grove, that is next to the ocean. And I don't know if maybe it does touch the ocean and we've just never seen it. That's entirely possible. But if it doesn't, it does make me think that maybe that is the intended part of the progression through the world. You get lakes and rivers in Zone 1, but in order to leave that main continent of Orbus and explore just randomly generated parts of the world, you would have to progress through the other biomes to get to the ocean, or through the other zones to get to the ocean. I'm thinking. But there is something that I referenced earlier that potentially proves that theory wrong. We're going to get to that. But we definitely have, as a final biome in the Howling Sands, we have beaches. They're there. We get a few glimpses of them. We have beaches in which you might find buried treasure, if not just in the oceans beyond. But right here we have a fenstalker. And the fenstalkers we know live in the swamps and marshes inside of Zone 1. But we did see a screenshot of it just outside of a Quebec village, which didn't look like it was in a marsh. It just looked like it was in a forest. Maybe next to a river, but still just a forest. This guy's in the ocean, which makes me wonder, either they're just like in the ocean at large, or he was just placed here for the vibes for the screenshot, or the ocean does connect to Zone 1 and I'm stupid. I don't know. I don't know yet, but I would love to hear if anybody has a theory on it or what anybody else thinks. It's just a very curious thing that caught my attention, the position of the oceans. Here's another screenshot. There's a couple interesting things in here. There's the human settlement right here that we actually saw earlier, but there's also, you see this right next to my face? This definitely looks like a crane that would be at the top of a mine. This definitely looks like an opportunity to go lower into the caves through human-made mine shafts that are in here. That looks like it leads down below. We also see these instances of meerkats. This is also kind of a blurry photo, but the meerkats look like they might live in little caves too, which would be so cute, that you can find on the sides of Badlands and stuff. You even see those caves in concept art of the zones themselves. And see some hyenas in the caves as we go deeper here. And then we get into the proper caves. You can see these stalagmites and stalactites. It looks like there's a big nest of webs and stuff over here. Then we have the Scarrick nest caves. These are eggs around here. They're egg caves. This is where the Scarricks do egg stuff. And it seems to be a biome unto itself, which also definitely goes hand in hand with my theory of the nest sort of biome that's above ground for the Scarricks, them affecting the environment and making it look that way when they've clearly done the same thing here below ground in these caves. It all fits together. This is definitely Zone 2 because you can see, again, the glazed bits on the side here. Definitely a dungeon that you can encounter. We get another little bit here with the treasure chest there. It makes me wonder if there's also goblins at work down here because they seem to have treasure chests. We can see one down there. The blocks here, the pillars, they look Howling Sands to me. Again, I could be wrong, but I think that that's probably the case, more than likely. Here we are at the edge of the Howling Sands, and you can see a very particular biome as you move into Zone 3, which is called Borea. This is the cold biome. I want you to remember what that looks like. We're going to come back to it later, I promise. We're going to come back to it later. We can see another little glimpse of it here, and here. We can also see in the distance, it looks like there might be more bits of zone. Do you see that? That looks kind of like mesa bits with Badlands tree. What are they called? What did I try to say? Mesas with acacia trees. That's what they're called, jutting off the sides of them that we see in a savanna. Don't know if that's the case, but it looks like it might be. Anyways, Zone 3, Borea. Here's some beautiful concept art that we got from Zone 3. We've not seen anything like this in the game, but I kind of hope they add something like this, because look at this. Look at this! Like frozen glaciers. It's absolutely epic. I hope they do something like it's a literal frozen wave. That looks like magic to me. Magic video next week. We're going to start with the biome, the Corrupted Forest. I know this is a very sketchy looking screenshot, okay? This is this is actually the only in-game screenshot we have of a fawn ever, period, point blank. Corrupted Forest is a very cool place because it seems to take some elements of the game and corrupt them, right? We have this Quebec here. It looks like a corrupted Quebec, like the Quebecs in Zone 1, but now a little bit messed up and infected, like some other parts of the world have been infected. You can even see in the background of this image right outside of the Corrupted Forest, this platform up here looks very similar to the sort of platform that you get in the Quebec villages in Zone 1. Which leads me to a theory that I've been building a little bit throughout the course of this video that we're going to get to in just a second. We have this little skeleton patrol that's very cool. It looks like we might have a little settlement down here. I don't know if that's ruins or if that's an Outlander village or something else. But the interesting thing here is that there was a little bit when I was going through these structures where I was kind of judging, okay, this has a living group of people in it because there's fires and lights and everything. This doesn't because there's no lights. It must be the undead. But they're carrying torches. So I wonder if they can't just light up fireplaces by themselves too. I don't know. There's plenty of other ways to distinguish them. But I was thinking about that. Corrupted Forest, right. We get these they're like weird, skinny, purple glowing mushrooms. I'm sure, oh, my face is in the way. I'm sure that's just like a bit of Varen's power seeping through. You see the purple over there? That's definitely a Varen thing. All the purple and the green stuff. But we see more of them here. I think they're so cool. Another thing I'm very excited to build with. Can you imagine like a witch's hut in this forest? It looks so good. We can see an overview of it. This is what it looks like from the map. I know Borea is a very cold zone. But you can see so many regions like this that are just kind of arid. They've got very scraggly growth, very scraggly plants. We can definitely see. There's reference to something in Borea called the moors. I don't know if maybe that's this over here, because moors is like rolling hills. Maybe that's this over here. I'm really not sure. There's no screenshot so far where I look at it and like, that has to be the moors. Surely that's the moors. But they're out there, allegedly. We can see more of the Corrupted Forest here and these glowing mushrooms. And then here we see it in the daytime with all these scraggly branches and the glowing mushrooms. And we bring back the moss horn image from earlier. This is why I think I was very wrong about where they are. I don't think they're Zone 1 at all, because you can see right next to my face a glowing orange mushroom, and you can also see the scraggly trees. This is definitely the Corrupted Forest, and that's definitely where they live. And I was totally off about it before. We can also see, if I just move my face a little bit again, another bit over here of what looks like badland or mesa with acacia trees jutting off of it. Does it not? I think it does. In addition to the Corrupted Forest, we have evergreen forests. Whereas a lot of Zone 1 seemed very deciduous, it still had redwood forests. Now we get those redwood forests, we get the normal and snowy variants here in Borea. We also have glaciers. I don't have a great picture of them. And we have these absolutely striking mountains behind them all. The screenshots from Borea are some of my favorite vistas. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And of course, in Borea, we also get distinct weather events like snowstorms, which is really cool as well. I'm just in love with this. You can also see these like little cliffside bits on the mountain here, which look really cool. Maybe that's another little microbiome. Sometimes it's very hard to tell. But we definitely have quite a few variations on this pine forest, this evergreen forest. Here's another snowy variation. This time we have these ice spikes jutting out of here as well, which we do see a few times. Look, the little owl. I love the little owl. I know there's not going to be a taming system in the early access launch, but I want it so bad. And then we see more of them here. I think these are crystals. I don't think these are ice spikes. I think these are crystals. I think they're a little bioluminescent. I think this might be ice beneath it, like this little line right here. But these are crystals, I'm pretty sure. And it makes me think maybe this is leading down into a cave, because I get the impression a lot of the crystals are in caves. And I know that there are crystal caves underground sometimes in this world. We can also start to see, this is very blurry, okay? This is from the gameplay. We can start to see these structures over here that are ruined human structures, and maybe another mage tower like we saw earlier. Here, we can see another glimpse of that forest I pointed out earlier that has these kind of swirling gray trees. Look at the shape of these trees. Look at the shape of these mushrooms. Lock it in, okay? This is where I'm about to drive one of my theories home. You see these, the trees, the way they spin, the way they curl, and you see those little mushrooms. Do you see? It definitely looks like a pale version of this bioluminescent forest. It 100% does. The mushrooms are the same shape, the trees are the same shape, and this also complements my theory about Zone 1, the Emerald Grove, and Zone 3, Borea, being somewhat counterpoint to one another, where they have these parallel biomes. They both have these evergreen forests. They, as far as I'm thinking so far, they both have quebecs. We have the more gentle-looking ones that are in Zone 1, and then perhaps the more warlike ones in Zone 3, and some corrupted ones in Zone 3. And of course, they would have to be a little beefier in Zone 3, because they'd have to be fighting so much more than they would just in Zone 1, which is a lot more peaceful. They have the Trorks there. This is not the same, right? It's not the same. Moving on in Zone 3, we have, back to the stone circles, we have the frost circle that you can see here, which is this gray stone with blue light inside of it, which we can definitely see right here in this little valley inside of Borea. We can also see what looks like an Outlander village beyond that, and then this stone circle here, which best believe we're diving into in the magic video next week. Here, this one's a little difficult. This is a brief little glimpse that you see during the 16-minute gameplay. You can see, it looks like there's a raised viewing platform over here. And part of it makes me wonder, like, I don't know if this is, it could be an Outlanders camp. It could be a Quebec viewing platform. We've even seen Trorks with viewing platforms that look like this. It's hard to tell. There's a bit over here that looks like it might be one of those twisting trees. I don't know if that's Zone 1 or Zone 2. I don't know if Zone 1 and Zone 3, or sorry, Zone 1 or Zone 3. I don't know if Zone 1 and 3 can touch, or if you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. All of that is currently a mystery. But there's definitely some sort of settlement going on back there. I don't know who it belongs to. These, however, we can be very certain about who they belong to. These skeletons, again, would be the deceased worshippers of Gaia. However, the people still standing in here, if you have not watched the previous video, are the Outlanders that are basically now corrupted, mutated humans. They have this flag back here. This is the Varen's flag. He's the big baddie of Orbus. And he has that purple flag that has a diamond shape on it. And that's also very important. I know I've mentioned the flags a few times now. We're going to come back to it again in a little bit. But these are the Outlander villages. They've got quite a varied settlement here in the examples we've seen. They have these large fortifications. They have watchtowers. They have houses. They have lumber yards. They have campfires. They have quite a lot going on. We'll get to another structure they have a little bit later as well. We can see very clearly here the Varen flag with the green and the purple to represent Varen. If you don't know, things that have green eyes in the game seem to be from the big bad. Here, very interesting. This is a Varen spawn. You can see the green eyes. This creature is literally called a Varen spawn. You can see the structure behind it, but this definitely has Gaian flags. Like, the Outlanders serve Varen, but their structures have the Varen flags. This has a Gaian flag, and it's ruined. You can tell this is absolutely some sort of temple left over from Gaia's worshippers. And now a Varen spawn is living inside of it, maybe guarding something inside of it. Very interesting that this could shape out to be a dungeon or something like that the Varen spawn are inhabiting as opposed to the skeletons. Because so far, when we've seen these banners on a structure, that means skeletons live inside of it. But this one is clearly occupied by something that seems to be allied with the Outlanders. Maybe they're taking it over, or maybe there's something valuable related with Gaia that's inside of there. Maybe it's another Gaian temple, and this is the version of it in Zone 3 compared to how it looked in Zone 1. Here we can see an Outlander village. We can see all the grave markers, and also one of the final biomes in this region, the glaciers off to the side. Which they said are getting updated in the New World generation, but I think already look really cool. I just really hope there's going to be a glacier that looks like the giant frozen wave from the beginning, from the concept art. It'd just be so, so epic. So, these Outlander villages, I'm going to move my head just a little bit again. So you can see all of this. They have these villages, and then they have these corrupted pools. I don't know if the stones around these pools in the concept art count as the stone circles for the magic. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more and see if I can find any more proof. Outlanders, in addition to their villages, really cool structure they have are these underground pools. We can see over here, if we go back to the soundtrack, we get to Outlander Dungeon, which may be this thing. I don't know. But here we have all the Outlander music, right? We have Death March, Chains, Labor, etc., etc. Morphosis, heretical plot, mutated fanatics, demonic tension. All of that seems to fit perfectly together right here. They are using this corrupted water. Because if you didn't know, Zone 3's element is water, right? Each of these zones has its own element that's being corrupted now that Gaia is gone, and this water is being corrupted to allow Varen's power into these creatures. This is what they're doing to themselves. They create these beasties that look like this, right? We can also see the Varen flag back here, but in a very recent screenshot, we can see this world save that's labeled Curse Breakers. We can see Varen's purple corruption. We can see ice here, so this is clearly Zone 3. We can see a treasure chest, so maybe something in a dungeon. We can see this statue that has a diamond on it, and these kind of tentacle-like looking things. This looks very Varen-esque to me. This could easily just be horns too, but like the whole setup of it, the whole aesthetic of it, this looks like an idol to Varen, to me. That's my best guess. Again, entirely speculation, but it makes me think. It makes me wonder. Here we get a few of these ice spikes. Again, you can also see an entrance down to the caves here as well. And then here is the final Outlander structure that I have. This, we can see a mine cart. We can see a sort of pulley system with ropes. We can see these giant chains, diagonal chains. Sorry, the builder in me is just so over the moon about this. And then we can see the mine carts. This clearly looks like a refinery station for a mine shaft. So I wonder if we won't just get straight up Outlander mines. I mean, it's not like a ruined human mine, or maybe they inherited the old human mines, but these are mines that they're currently operating in. They're active. They're making armor and weapons and other materials out of them. So actual active mines. Not just abandoned things that, you know, goblins or something have moved into. Here's a little shot of the Yeti as you're going down into a cave. We descend a little further. We get these beautiful ice caves. Here we get some very clearly corrupted growth and what looks like this very magical spiraling tree. I love the way this looks. I adore the way this looks. And we can see even a little structure over here that looks like it might be part of a mine shaft right here where my mouse is on the right-hand side of the screen. We can see another crystal cave here, which I'm very excited to explore the crystal caves because clearly we got some bioluminescence going on here. And then here we have a sort of underground dungeon. We can see skeletons living in here in a dungeon cave inside of Borea. Here's some more of the ice caves. This is super dark. This is from the 16-minute gameplay. This is just like a tiny little 4x4 kind of raised box inside of the caves here that just looks like a little outpost. Maybe this is like a goblin outpost or something, or maybe it's left by the Outlanders. It does look like it's made out of Outlander stone, or just Borea stone. I don't know. But we also have the spiders that spawn down here inside of the caves. I don't know if there's specific like cave biomes where the spiders spawn. You can see another one crawling up the side of the cave back there, which is wild. We get all of this stuff. We have the magma snail that I'm so excited about, and we have lava down here. I haven't included this as a proper biome in the caves, but we do have what seems like a lot of lava caves at the base of almost every biome, with one exception at the very end. Or, sorry, at the base of every zone, with one exception at the very end. We've got another glimpse of a dungeon down here as well. This is really interesting back here. You can see on this stone here, it looks like this might be a coffin. You can see the Gaian symbol right there, the five-pointed tree symbol. You can see it right there as well. The coffee of a supporter, the coffee of a Gaian knight, maybe even potentially. We also have this. I wasn't sure where to put this. This one was really difficult for me. I've put it here. It's just that the ambiance with the light makes it actually really difficult to tell what the actual color of the stone is. It looks kind of grayish. It could be in any of these three zones, to be completely honest. But what I did really notice, do you see the color of the bat's eyes? Not only are they in a corrupted cave here, but their eyes are green. The Varen color. All the Outlanders' eyes are green. All the Varen spawn's eyes are green. The Void eyes are green. And now the bat's eyes are green. I'm just saying. I'm just thinking. Now, Devastated Lands, Zone 4. This one we have the least amount of content about. This is a fiery wasteland. In terms of biomes, we know that we have active lava flows. We know that we have these burnt, charred fields. It looks like there might be some sort of like ash-covered field. We can see these structures here that are probably human ruins that are inhabited by just skeletons. We also know that there are these giant volcanoes. Now, this is a really interesting part of this structure in particular that makes me very curious. Here, this looks like a cage. This is a thing sometimes. This is not a made-up thing. Sometimes people would be dangled from cages as a form of punishment. And so this was like a prison sentence, sometimes temporarily, sometimes left to die. And that looks like what this is. Now, the question here really is, were these made by the skeletons, since they seem to be still active and able to do and make stuff? Or was this a staple of the human culture here? I don't know. It just makes me very curious about maybe the humans here were not so good. Here we can see more of the lava flows. We can see these cracked kind of magma-laced blocks here. In the background of this, we can also see a structure that looks like a coliseum of some sort. We can see, if I move my head here, you can see behind it, it looks like a little bit of ruins, some human ruins. But this is definitely some sort of structure. Thank you for the soggy. My throat is actually getting dry from all this talking. This is a much longer stream than I anticipated this being. There's just so much content. There's so much. Coliseum. I'm just piecing together some story elements here from what we've seen of these people. They have cages dangling off of their fortresses that look like a form of punishment. They've got this thing that looks like a small arena of some sort. Even their armor is more aggressive. And hey, look at that. You can see the Gaian symbol on the chest plate. These people were clearly still worshipping the same being, the same deity. Look at what they did with it. And then it makes me wonder, did they have a hand in their own devastation? Did they have a hand in maybe messing with magic that they shouldn't have that caused all these volcanoes to erupt? Another thing for the magic video next week. And then we have the Ember Wolf standing here on, it looks like these are sort of chasms. And not only that, but we also see what looks like a blood moon. I don't know if any of this is edited or if that's just like naturally in the game. But like, talk about a cool weather event, or I guess celestial event in this case. Blood moon in the Devastated Lands? Are you kidding me? That would be epic. That's it for the surface biomes that we know of. We can see on this map here, we get several different types of cave biomes here. So we have the devastated caves, which I assume must be very barren and also scorched, very much like the surfaces. And then we continue down and they begin to change. And it seems like we get a few different stages of this where growth begins to come in. If you remember how I said that there's not lava at the base of all of these zones, oddly enough, the fire zone doesn't seem to have lava at the bottom. Instead, it has bioluminescent jungles that are absolutely stunning. Look at this. Obviously, the lighting and the game engine needs some updating, and they've admitted that too, and that they're working on it, but it's breathtaking. I'm so excited to build in these. I'm so excited. We also got this from the original trailer in 2018. This one doesn't have the bioluminescence. However, it makes me think that this is closer to the surface because we can see what look like shafts of sunlight that are coming down through here. So I wonder if we don't get, you know, the biomes that I listed on the surface with all the volcanoes and the lava flows and ashy fields and all of that sort of stuff. And then we get the devastated caves. And then we get these that are lush, but they're not bioluminescent. And then we descend further and then we get the bioluminescent caves. We know that down here, the structures that we're going to have are the Solothian villages, the places that they live and places like this that they train. They seem to be pretty adept warriors, and they would have to be, because if you do not know, the Solothians share their bioluminescent jungles with dinosaurs, bioluminescent dinosaurs, in fact. And even in these screenshots, we can parse out a few separate biomes that are within these jungles. I mean, we definitely have these upper jungles that are less bioluminescent, assuming that's still in the world generation that they currently have, and it's not all bioluminescent. Not 100% sure. We have these areas that seem to be a little bit more open and with sparser vegetation, and then we have very dense undergrowth. We have the areas with the glowing trees, and then we have what look like bamboo forests over here that are all growing underground. Here we can see, again, evidence of little microbiomes within all of this. So we can see bioluminescent forest, and here, just little clumps of different plants. Here we have these, oh, I forget what these are called. I'm going to move my face. Oh my god, it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't remember. This is a real plant. It's a prehistoric plant. We have pockets of those, which is very cool because, you know, dinosaurs as well. It really makes a lot of sense. We have these little Venus flytraps as well. We have the bamboo forest beyond. And here it does look like we have, again, bioluminescent forest over here and regular jungle over here. So it does look like those will be two separate biomes within the devastated lands. Lastly, this is not a zone, but still a set of biomes. The ocean. We've already touched on the glaciers, but in the oceans, it seems like there's a few biomes that we've been shown. We have regular old ocean, we have ocean shelves, we have coral reefs. It looks like we're going to get some submerged caves as well. We know that in terms of structures, we're going to have shipwrecks that will have loot inside of them. There's also this screenshot. It looks very much like a corrupted biome within the oceans. So it seems like this corruption really does touch everywhere. This looks like corrupted coral. And I don't think that's coincidence. I think that's very intentional. I think that's exactly what it is. Here we can see inside a shipwreck, another one of those treasure chests that the player is trying to reach. We can also see underground, the only other structure I believe we've ever seen underground, what am I saying, underwater, are ruins. We can see yet more ruins. And this is kind of contributing to my whole, like, the ocean first connects to the Howling Sands theory, because this building material looks like Howling Sands building material. It looks like that's what's going on here. Again, could be wrong. It's just speculation, but that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. We've got this underwater cave right here as well that you can see the player descending into. Right now, the developers have already said the oceans are very empty, very barren, and it's not a great representation of the trailer just yet, but that they will be working on it and that it will expand and become more rich over time, like so much else in the game. That is just about all we have today. If you are still watching I do want to say a big thank you. I really appreciate the love on the last video that I did for Hytale, and I am in this game for the long haul. I've waited for this for so long. I'm so thrilled and excited about this. And if you enjoyed the video, it really is an enormous help to subscribe, comment, share, like, all that good stuff. If you would like to, you're also welcome to check out the main channel. Right now it is just solely Minecraft content, but I'm sure I'll come up with some nice polished Hytale content to put there. You're watching a VOD channel right now. This is all streamed on twitch.tv/Bradley is streaming. We stream these currently every single Tuesday at 11 a.m. PST, and we're going to keep that trend running up until January the 13th, which is a Tuesday, at which time we will be starting stream 4 hours earlier, I believe it is, in order to be ready for the launch of the game. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll have our video on Magic and Hytale next week. I'll see you then.